There is a clinical range that is given. Only so much amount of glucose should be present in the urine before food and after food. Sweat is nothing but the waste toxic substances which is released out of a body in the form of water. When I say plasma and dialyzing fluid, both are one and the same, because the dialyzing fluid is nothing but the plasma, right, which is having all its components except the nitrogenous waste. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to the last session of chapter 19, that is excretory products and their elimination. I am Dr. Divya, biology faculty with the Ashram Pre-University College, Mysore Temple of Excellence. So in the previous session of this chapter, we had discussed about the concentration of the urine. Now this concentrated urine has to be eliminated out of the body, and that particular process called as micturition, which we shall study in this particular session. And in the previous session, we also studied about the regulation of the kidney function, wherein the heart as well as the brain and the juxtaglomerular apparatus secrete certain hormones that help in regulating the kidney function. So in today's session, we shall concentrate on micturition, the role of other organs other than kidney, the role of other organs in excretion, and also we shall study about the different disorders of the excretory system. So to begin with, we shall start with studying about micturition. So the elimination of urine or urinating process is called as micturition. So urine formed in the nephrons. So what are nephrons? Nephrons are nothing but the functional units of the kidney, and millions of nephrons are present in the kidney, which actually functions in concentrating the urine in the Henle's loop and therefore collecting them in the collecting duct, and therefore the last process is micturition, that is elimination in the body. So urine formed by the nephron is ultimately carried to the urinary bladder. As we all know, our kidney, the two kidneys that are there, they are connected through the urethra, that is the tube-like structure, to the urinary bladder. So where it is stored till a voluntary signal is given by the central nervous system. So how will we exactly know that our urinary bladder is full? We need to go and eliminate it or urinate. So there has to be some signal sent, right, from our urinary bladder to our brain. So that signal is sent, which is a voluntary signal. It is sent by the central nervous system stating that your urinary bladder is full, you need to go and urinate now, or the process of micturition has to occur now. So this signal is initiated by the stretching of the urinary bladder. So as and when the concentrated urine goes and fills from the kidney to the urinary bladder stretches, and this stretching actually sends a signal to the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord. And as it gets filled with urine, and in response to this, the stretch receptors that are present on the walls of the bladder, they actually send the signal. So what happens here? The process of micturition is involuntary, involving the central nervous system. What exactly happens? The millions of nephrons that are present in the kidney, they actually filter the urine, or they concentrate the urine. This concentrated urine moves from the kidney into the urinary bladder, which is the collection center. As and when the urine gets filled, the urinary bladder stretches. This stretches creates a stretch receptor that sends the signals to the central nervous system stating that the urination process has to occur now. So what happens? Where are these receptors present? They are present on the walls of the urinary bladder. Now the central nervous system, it passes the motor messages, and these motor messages will actually initiate, or it will start the contraction of the smooth muscles of the bladder. So what happens when it contracts? When something fills, say for example, into a balloon, you fill water. It will fill, right, up till a certain extent it will fill. Then you just press it with two of your hand, or you contract the balloon. What happens? From the opening, the water will spill out, right? Same function happens here. As and when the urine gets filled in the urinary bladder, on the walls the urinary bladder stretches. Therefore, on the walls of the urinary bladder, the receptors that are there will send signals through the central nervous system stating that the urinary bladder is full. Now, that central nervous system will pass the motor messages to the urinary bladder, making the urinary bladder to contract. Therefore, when the urinary bladder, that is the smooth muscles that are present in the urinary bladder, they contract, they apart also relax. So, the contraction and relaxation process simultaneously it will occur, and the urethral, that is relaxation in the urethral sphincter muscle causing the release of the urine. Now, that is why as and when contraction and relaxation will occur. Contraction for passage of urine, relaxation for the stopping of the passage of the urine. So, this particular process is called as the micturition. So, the process of release of urine is called as micturition, and the neural mechanism that causes this particular micturition is called as the micturition reflex. So, what is micturition? The process of urinating is called as micturition. What is micturition reflex? It is the neural mechanism. So, neural mechanisms are what all are involved here, especially the central nervous system, right, which sends signals. So, that mechanism is called as a micturition reflex. So, how much an adult can micturate or how much can he urinate? So, adult human excretes on an average 1 to 1.5 liters of urine per day. Don't get confused with the amount of glomerular filtrate that is formed and the amount of urine that is eliminated from the body. The numbers are quite different. But though the amount of glomerular filtrate formed is different, the amount of urine that is eliminated out of our body is around 1 to 1.5 liters. And this is concentrated form of urine. Water will, only minimal amount of water will get eliminated, but otherwise the urine is in the concentrated form. So, the urine formed, it is light yellow colored watery fluid, and it is slightly acidic, having a pH of 6.0, and it has a characteristic pungent odor that is there to it. And on an average 25 to 30 grams of urea is excreted out per day. So, urea that gets produced, how much grams is excreted in the urine? 25 to 30 grams. And here also, if so much amount of urea doesn't get excreted, it will lead to a lot of disorders in the kidney. So, this is about the micturition process. And various conditions can affect the characteristics of the urine. So, what did we understand? We understood that the characteristics of the urine is, it is somewhat yellowish in color, pale yellow to yellow in color, and it has a pungent odor. And if there is any variation in the color of the urine or the odor of the urine, we know that something is wrong with the urinary system. So, analysis of the urine therefore helps in clinical diagnosis. Not just that, anything, any metabolic disorder like the sugar level, anything, any biochemical analysis that you need to do on the body, either the blood sample will be drawn or the urine sample will be drawn, right? So, almost all the pathology related studies or whatever it is, the urine samples are the ones which actually gives a lot of information, not just about the malfunctioning or the disorders of the kidney, but also any other problem occurring in the body. The urine gives an accurate result about that. So, analysis of urine helps in clinical diagnosis of various metabolic disorders, and also it gives an idea whether the kidney is functioning properly or not, because the color, all that, and the amount of how concentrated it is, all that will depict how well the kidney is functioning or not. Say for example, the presence of glucose, which is called as glycosuria, that is the presence of glucose in the urine along with urea, and the presence of ketone bodies, which is called as ketonuria in the urine, is indicative of diabetes mellitus. So, there is a clinical range that is given. Only so much amount of glucose should be present in the urine before food and after food. If it goes beyond that limit, then we can say that the person is suffering from the diabetes disease or diabetes mellitus disorder. So next we shall study about the role of different organs in the process of excretion. We all know that kidney helps in the process of excretion, but apart from that, there are various other organs that help in excretion process. Say for example, we have, other than kidneys, there is lungs, there is liver, and skin also help in the elimination of excretory waste. So how exactly? So don't think that excretory waste means it is only the urine that we pass out and the excretory solid product that we pass out. No, apart from that, whatever comes out of the body, be it in the form of sweat, be it in the form of carbon dioxide, all that is also excretion. So how exactly these different organs apart from the kidney play an important role in the excretion, we shall look into. So first talking about lungs. So our lungs help in the respiratory process, right? They take in large amount of oxygen and help in eliminating carbon dioxide from our body tissues. So our lungs remove large amount of carbon dioxide, that is approximately, it is estimated that 200 milliliter of carbon dioxide per minute. When we are breathing, we are taking in oxygen. Very soon we are leaving out or exhaling carbon dioxide. How much? Per minute, 200 milliliters of carbon dioxide is being eliminated or excreted out of the body. And also lungs play a very important role in removing significant quantities of water every day. Water also gets eliminated from the lungs. Otherwise, what happens if the lungs get filled with water? It will lead to a lot of problems or disorders. So this is how the lungs help in the process of excretion, by helping in the elimination of carbon dioxide and also removal of water. Next, talking about liver. So liver, it is the largest gland that is present in a body, and we all know that we had studied in the digestion chapter, right? Digestion and absorption, wherein we studied liver is one such gland or organ that actually secretes large amounts of bile, and that bile gets stored in the gallbladder, and the gallbladder releases enough amount of bile to the stomach and the intestine for the digestion of the food. We had studied, right? So therefore here liver, which is the largest gland in our body, secretes bile containing substances such as bilirubin, bilirubinin, cholesterol, some degraded steroid hormones. They also secrete vitamins and also they secrete drugs. So whatever drugs we take, the tablets or medications that we take in is supplied by the livers to the targeted organs. So most of these substances ultimately they pass out along with the digestive waste. So that is how liver also helps in removal of the digestive waste from a body. Certain toxic substances, bile also should be removed. Excess of bile is not needed. What happens if excess of bile gets stored in a body? We'll get jaundice and all sorts of other liver disorders and also digestive disorders. So therefore, they have to be eliminated. The bile products which are there, excess should be eliminated, which is mainly done by the liver along with the digestive system. Next, moving further, the skin. It is very interesting. The skin is also one of the excretory organ. We sweat, right? So sweat is nothing but the waste toxic substances which is released out of a body in the form of water. So the sweat, and not just that, the skin also releases oil droplets. From morning, evening, when you just touch your face or your skin, you feel that oily secretions. It is the sebaceous glands that are present in the skin, or the oil glands that are present in the skin, that secretes the excess of oil from our skin. So the sweat and the sebaceous glands, the sweat glands and the sebaceous glands present in the skin, they help in eliminating certain substances by secretions. So sweat produced by the sweat glands is a watery fluid which contains sodium chloride. It contains small amount of urea and lactic acid, etc., which are all not required by a body, and therefore they get eliminated with a sweat. So that is why a sweat tastes salty, because of the presence of sodium chloride and urea, the main components. And though the primary function of the sweat is to facilitate a cooling effect, we sweat during the summers lot, right? So that a body's temperature can be regulated and a cooling effect can be provided to the body. And apart from providing a cooling effect to the body, sweat also helps in removing some of the waste such as sodium chloride, urea, lactic acid and other toxic substances that are there. All that gets eliminated from our body through the sweat. So this is how the skin plays a very important role. That is the sweat glands that are present in the skin. So let's talk about the sebaceous glands present in the skin. Sebaceous glands present in the skin also helps in eliminating or removing substances like sterols, hydrocarbons and waxes through the sebum. So therefore, they are the unwanted substances which are not needed, which are to some extent toxic, which has to be eliminated from the body. And not just that, these secretions, that is the secretions from the sebaceous glands, prevent our skin, and it, that is the oily covering for this, it acts like a protective layer. The oils that are secreted by the sebaceous glands, they spread over the skin and they act like a protective layer. Not just that, these oils secreted from the skin also is said to prevent early wrinkling of the skin. So that is why they are quite important. So this is how the different organs such as the lungs, the liver and the skin play an important role in excretion apart from the kidney. So next, moving further, we shall study about the different disorders of the excretory system. So talking about the first disorder, that is uremia. So uremia is nothing but malfunctioning of the kidney, or improper functioning of the kidney is called as uremia. And this malfunctioning actually will lead to the accumulation of urea in the blood, and this accumulation of urea in the blood is called as uremia. So uremia, what is uremia? The accumulation of urea in the blood causes malfunctioning of the kidney. We all learned that urea has to be eliminated out of the body along with sodium chloride, right? But here what happens? Because of the improper functioning of the kidney, the nephrons will not function properly. If the nephrons are not functioning properly, in the Henle's loop and in the vasa recta, the proper removal of the urea will not occur. So that is when the urea will start collecting in the blood, and this particular process is called as uremia, and it is quite harmful, which may lead to kidney failure. And if it leads to kidney failure, we all know that either we need to go for a kidney replacement from a donor, or we need to go for a hemodialysis process. So in such patients, urea can be removed by a process called as hemodialysis. So we shall study what this hemodialysis is. So hemodialysis is in during this process. So hemodialysis is actually an instrument which functions like a kidney. How exactly a kidney helps in removing urea from our body in the form of urine, just like that this hemodialysis works like a kidney by removing the excess urea from the blood. So during the process of hemodialysis, the blood is drained from a convenient artery and it is pumped into a dialyzing unit which is called as a artificial kidney. So the blood will be pumped out of the body, as you can see here, and it will be connected to a dialyzer. So this roller pump actually helps in proper flow of the blood through the tube. So this tube will be connected to the dialyzer. Now in the dialyzer's function is to remove the urea from the blood. So blood drained from a convenient artery, as I told you, is pumped into a dialyzing unit after adding an anticoagulant like heparin. Now we all know that when the blood comes out of the body and it is exposed to oxygen or air, clotting will occur. Now clotting should not occur here. So if clotting should not occur during the removal of blood from any one of the arteries of that particular patient, to that blood a particular anticoagulant means the compound which actually prevents the clotting of the blood, is added, and that anticoagulant is called as heparin. Now, because heparin is given or added, the clotting of the blood will not occur. The blood can flow easily now. Now, that blood will reach the dialyzer unit or the dialyzing unit, which functions like an artificial kidney. So, the unit contains a coiled cellophane tube which is surrounded by a fluid, that is, it is surrounded by a dialyzing fluid, and in that dialyzing fluid it will have the same composition as that of the plasma, except the nitrogenous waste will not be there. So, this will be connected to a cellophane tape, and around that a dialyzing fluid will be present. That dialyzing fluid's composition is same as that of the compositions whatever is there in the blood plasma, right? We had studied what different sorts of ions and all that are there in the blood plasma. Except for the nitrogenous waste, it will have all the ions and all that present in it, and that will get exchanged. Now, the urea is removed, these products of the plasma will enter into the blood. So, that is how it will move. So, one with the dialyzing fluid. So, next what happens? The dialyzing fluid has to be removed now, that because the dialyzing fluid's function is over. So, again the dialyzing fluid will be removed, and then dialysis fluid will also remove the waste. Now, the waste products, that is urea, will get removed, and the dialyzing fluid will also get removed. Now, what is left in the dialyzer? Only pure blood, which is not having any waste product including urea, will be there. That is pure blood. It will be sent, the clean blood will be sent back to the patient's body. So, that is how it functions here. So, next what happens? Now, the porous cellophane membrane that is there in the tube, it will allow the passage of the molecules based on the concentration gradient. And as nitrogenous waste are absent in the plasma or in the dialyzing fluid. When I say plasma and dialyzing fluid, both are one and the same, because the dialyzing fluid is nothing but the plasma, right, which is having all its components except the nitrogenous waste. So, these substances will freely move out, thereby clearing the blood, and the cleared blood is pumped back. It is pumped back to the body through a vein after adding antiheparin to it. Again, antiheparin should be added. Why? Because coagulation factor should not be there. If along with heparin, so I'll make you understand this again. So, the blood will be collected from the body of the individual who is suffering from uremia disorder. So, that blood contains lot of urea. Now, that urea has to be eliminated. Why urea is there in that blood? Because this person's kidney is not functioning properly. That is the reason. Now, when the blood is drawn, a heparin should be added. Why heparin should be added? Heparin is an anticoagulant factor that will prevent the clotting of the blood, because if the blood is exposed to outside, clotting will occur. To prevent that, heparin should be added. Now, it will make the blood will flow along with heparin, therefore, the clotting of the blood will not occur, easy flow of the blood will occur, and it will enter into the dialyzer. Now, what is there in the dialyzer? In the dialyzer, a cellophane tape is there, which is porous, and that cellophane tape is surrounded by a dialyzing fluid. What is a dialyzing fluid made up of? It is made up of the plasma. So, all it consists of the blood plasma. What all components are there in the plasma? That will be there in the dialyzing fluid, but nitrogenous waste will not be there. Now, that plasma will actually function as cleaning the blood. What it will do? It will, from the cellophane tape, based on the concentration gradient, or from the dialyzer or from the artificial kidney that this is called as, the dialysis fluid will remove the waste material, and the dialysis fluid will get separated here. The waste material will come and separate. Now, what is there in the waste material? Urea is there, right? Urea will get separated, and then also the dialysis fluid will also come out, because the main function of the dialysis fluid is to only remove the urea, because those ions that are present in the plasma is the one that actually helps in eliminating the urea. That is why they use the blood plasma as a dialyzing fluid here. Now all that is removed. Now what is there in the dialyzer now? Only clean blood is there. That clean blood should be pumped back. Now that clean blood, what is there in the clean blood? Dialyzing fluid is not there. It is removed. Waste, that is urea, is being removed. And what is left now? If you remember, we had added, what did we add? We had added heparin, right, which is a anticoagulant. Can we send the blood along with heparin now? No. What will happen? The blood, as soon as it reaches the body, cannot be sent. So therefore, anti-heparin will be added. That anti-heparin will prevent the functioning of the heparin. That will be sent back to the body. Now the person is free of uremia for some time. Again, after a month or two, according to how the doctor prescribes, he has to come back for the same process again to the hospital. So this is the function of the hemodialyzer, wherein the dialyzing unit functions like an artificial kidney. Till how long? Until a donor is got. So once the donor is got, they can go in for a kidney transplant. Now what happens in kidney transplant? We shall see. So hemodialysis is one option, but once there is a donor that is got who can provide his or her kidney to that particular person or a patient suffering from uremia, they can go in for kidney transplant. So kidney transplantation is the final method in the correction of the acute renal failure. Here also, only if the acute renal failure, this particular kidney transplantation can be done. And a functioning kidney is actually used in transplantation from a donor. That is preferably a close relative. Why close relative? Because the blood groups can match, the kidney can match. Therefore, that is why it is selected, so that there is minimal chances of rejection by the immune system. Now what happens here is our immune system might start rejecting the kidney, because this kidney that has come from the donor is a foreign body to our body, right? So that is why we always need to select a donor who is having a kidney which can fit properly to our body, so that our immune system will not go and attack it. So such a donor should be selected, and there are certain modern clinical procedures that have increased the success rate of such complicated technique. Now they give some anti-immunosuppressants and all that to avoid such complications during the kidney transplant procedure. So that is how it is done. So the kidney transplant, wherein a new kidney is fixed to the person, the patient suffering from uremia or acute kidney failure. So this is how kidney transplant is done. So there is next disorder which is called as renal calculi. So renal calculi is nothing but the formation of stones in the kidney. So stone or insoluble mass of crystallized salts such as oxalates, etc., they get formed within the kidney, and that is called as renal calculi. So in simple term, the formation of kidney stones is called as renal calculi. What is this kidney stone made up of? It is nothing but made up of salts. So if these salts such as the sodium chloride, urea and all doesn't get properly eliminated from the body, they get accumulated in the kidney itself, and they will form some calcareous substances or stones, and that is why it is called as renal calculi. Renal means kidney, calculi means calcareous hard substances. It is called as renal calculi. And one more important disorder of the excretory system is the glomerulonephritis. So inflammation of the glomeruli. So where is the glomerulus present? It is present in the nephrons of the kidney, right? So in the nephrons, in the glomerulus which is present within the Bowman's capsule, if the inflammation occurs in the glomerulus or swelling occurs in the glomerulus, so it is called as the glomerular nephritis. So what happens here? Inflammation of the glomeruli and the small blood vessels that are there connected to the glomeruli will occur, which is called as glomerulonephritis. So these are also some of the important disorders of the kidney. So with this particular chapter comes to an end, wherein in today's session we discussed about a process called as micturition. That is nothing but the urinating process is called as micturition, how exactly it occurs. And also we studied about the different organs such as the lungs, the liver and the skin, how they participate in the excretion process apart from kidney. And also we learnt about the disorders of the kidney such as the uremia, then the renal calculi and the glomerular nephritis. And we also learnt how a person suffering from uremia or kidney failure or kidney malfunctioning, how he can overcome that by undergoing hemodialysis and by undergoing kidney transplant. So with this, the chapter comes to an end. So we shall meet again in the coming sessions with a new chapter. Thank you.